I used to be so uncomfortable in social situations that if I was talking to a girl I was interested in, I just felt like a complete dork and didn't know what to say. If I was hanging out with other guys, I used to constantly feel like I was competing with other men to get their validation and be the coolest guy in the group. It was like I was always stuck in my head playing these internal mind games. If you can relate to this feeling, then pay attention because in this video, we're going to discuss 4 ways men can embrace their inner masculinity and just have a more natural dominance in social situations. First, voice of reason. This morning I was watching Patrick Bet. David on the Rog, the greatest podcaster of all time, never interviewed Trump. You're helping Joseph Biden win by not interviewing Trump, and what was interesting to me is how Rogan reacted after PBD went on for, I don't know, 10 minutes trying to convince them. Can you come on this podcast specifically to try to get me to interview tomorrow? You brought up Trump multiple times. I never brought it up. It seems like you did. I think you did. It's a very subtle thing, but PBD was almost putting a lot of pressure on Rogan to do this thing, and in those scenarios, sometimes it can be a bit dicey how we want to respond because maybe he wants to be like, yo bro, it's my show. Don't tell me who I should have on or not, or perhaps he felt pressure just to be like, yeah, maybe I'll have him on, thanks for the input. Instead, he said, it seems like you almost came on the show just to convince me you're doing this, Pat. As a side note, personally, I would love to see Trump on Rogan. Actually, another example could be you're on a date and the girl says, I actually hate cooking, and when this happens, every man's gonna have the same reaction of like, oh, what's up? But what do we do? A lot of times we might just play along with it and be like, yeah, I actually hate cooking too, good thing we can always order takeout, or maybe you feel like you got to address it directly and be like, what, this could never work out. I need a girl who cooks for me. The problem with both of these things, they bring up a bit of an emotional response inside of you. They make you start kind of playing these mind games and second guessing yourself, right? And that's why we must always take the middle masculine path that Rogan showed us. You just politely call out the thing in a neutral way. You're not praising it, you're not being negative about it. So if the girl tells me I actually hate cooking, I would just neutrally call it out. Really? You hate cooking that much? Because this diffuses the situation and it forces the other person to defend themselves without feeling negative towards you. Or maybe you're in a big group of people and there's that one guy who's just running his mouth. You can tell everyone's kind of uncomfortable. Maybe he's arguing about politics or why he hates the new Barbie movie, but it's just getting to be a little bit too much. If you can be the one who's able to step up and defuse the situation, you're going to look like the boss here. So you could say, hey Tom, it seems like you absolutely hate the new Barbie movie. I think we can all appreciate that the 2 best ways to do this are to say, it seems like Rogan said, did you come on this podcast specifically to try to get me to interview Trump? You brought up Trump multiple times. I never brought it up. It seems like you did. Or just to repeat what the other person said. Wow, really? You hate cooking that much, huh? Number 2, a specific look. I think it's safe to say that prejudice exists. People make assumptions about other people based solely on appearance because that's the information we have about them before we even meet them. Some people may not want this to happen, but that's the way the world operates. If we look at some very successful men, we can see that they all have a very specific look that they have designed. James Bond is a prime example of this. He always wears elegant, fitted suits, and even when he doesn't, he looks great. Even Jordan Peterson, who has a bit more of an academic look, is still well-made, and you can tell that he puts a lot of effort into the various suits that he wears. Andrew Tate, on the other hand, has a slightly more minimalistic style, but he usually has on a fitted t-shirt, a nice watch, some nice fitted pants, and some cool shoes. Many men have this steadfast belief that because they are men, they won't be feminine or care about how they look. You can feel whatever you want about this, but the truth is that these successful men know how important it is for others to judge them based on how they look, so they create a certain look. I would challenge you to kind of shift your perspective and start thinking about your own style. In this way, consider the various settings you are in on a daily basis. This may depend on your line of work, but you will likely spend some nights out, days in the office, and summertime gym visits. You're also likely to spend time together during the day in warm weather. What kind of look do you want to portray? The simplest way to start is to ask yourself, what is the main environment I spend the most time in and what I lack, perhaps pants, shirts, or shoes, then just start buying those items. After all, no matter what you're wearing, if your hair isn't up to par, you won't look good. For this reason, I partnered with Lathan to sponsor today's video look. The key to properly styling your hair is having a good hairdryer, and Lathan's new Swift SC hairdryer has everything. The key ingredient is the integrated 105,000 RPM motor, which is almost 5 times faster than a standard hairdryer and will let you dry your hair quickly. It also features an innovative hot and cold circle mode that will shield your scalp and hair from heat damage. Not to mention the patented 4-temperature light ring, so you instantly know what temperature you're at and at only 59 decibels. The Swift FC is also super quiet. You're not going to be disrupting your family, plus this thing is super lightweight. It's under a pound, which makes it very easy to pack and use on the go, and if you have curly hair like me, it comes with this really handy attachment that you just snap on, and that's going to allow those natural curls to come out while you're drying. I always used to struggle to get the exact look I wanted with my old generic hair dryers, but ever since I started using the Laffin, it's been both faster and easier to always get that desired look. And because today's video is sponsored by Leighton, they're hooking us up with a discount code that's going to save my viewers $10 off. Just click that first link in description to level up your hair game with life in number for the presents. So there are a few small and easy tweaks you can make to how you move that will instantly make you just seem more dominant, more masculine to other people. These are just things you have to be aware of, so I'm gonna break down the top 3. First of all, move slowly. When you see someone who moves a bit more slowly, so you know as they're getting down, they're not just like screwing to get in place, they're a little bit more deliberate with how they move. It just makes you seem like a more calculated, confident guy, and it also makes you feel that way. That's the thing about all of these quick tricks, is they don't only externally present this image, they internally make you feel more this way too. When you slow your movements down, that's probably also going to slow your heart rate down, decrease your blood pressure. You're going to be in a more confident state because 2 people take up more space physiologically. If I were sitting at a table eating dinner with a group of people who took up less space, like this, with my arms crossed, I'd appear slightly more nervous and physically smaller. Additionally, my cross-body language will make me feel slightly more tense and anxious than if I were to sit a little bit more, leaning back, my arms out within reason. Assuming I'm not touching someone else, that opens up my chest, my breathing is going to be deeper, I'm going to feel better, and it also makes me seem like a guy who's comfortable. Taking up more space makes you seem more like the center of attention, and research backs this up. One study, they had people have either an expansive posture or a contractive posture, and then after that they had them complete different tasks. The people with the expansive posture, they said they felt more powerful, they took more risks in a gambling task, and they performed better in a mock interview than the people who had the contractive posture. This is actual science as well. And third is eye contact. If you're not comfortable with eye contact, and I used to be so afraid of it, put yourself through the ringer a little bit, and over the next few weeks, everyone you're talking to, challenge yourself not to break eye contact. Just like anything else, you'll get desensitized to it and you'll become comfortable, even if at first you're really feeling really weird about trying to do it. I did this back when I worked in my corporate office, and I was making really strong eye contact with my boss. It was very intimidating, but it quickly got me over it. The point is, when you have no nervousness around eye contact, you're always going to feel more comfortable talking to everyone. You're also going to seem more confident, because when someone holds strong eye contact, you immediately just think, okay, this guy's not intimidated at all talking to me. And eye contact creates the most sexual tension out of any body language or postural thing. So on dates, stronger eye contact is going to lead to better outcomes on average. The one trick, you may have heard me say this before, but when the other person breaks eye contact, that's also your cue to look away for a moment, just long enough to make sure they feel comfortable and not overly threatened. The third method is the mystery method. I'm not talking about the old cheesy pickup artist who wore the top hats and stuff. Instead, I'm talking about the Sigma male, and I detest all these Alpha Beta Sigma groups. I don't know if there will be a game later, but when people talk about the Sigma, they talk about the man who is on his own path, right? He doesn't buy into societal norms, he is the lone wolf. The point is that he's kind of mysterious, right? He keeps to himself. Despite the cheesiness of some of these terms, I believe that adopting this mindset can be the key to unlocking self-validation, where you can actually validate yourself instead of needing others to approve of you or praise you. I don't talk about myself at all. I don't share, my businesses or my YouTube channel. I always just stay focused on learning more about the other person, partly because I already know my own story, so repeating it to a bunch of other people, other than the ego boost you might get from sharing your W's and your wins. It's kind of boring, right? I'd rather learn about someone else. The most powerful way to dig deeper when you're talking to other people so you don't get lost in just like interview mode and surface level things is to ask questions. Start with what, how, or why. So they tell you that they're a digital online marketer, you could say, oh, that's interesting. What does your day look like? How did you get into that? Why did you choose to do this? And if you start to do this, you'll notice that first of all, people like to reciprocate if you're showing interest in them. They're going to start to show interest in you and ask you about your life, and now it's coming from a genuine place of wanting to know more about you. So now when you do share some cool things about yourself, it's actually going to be more impactful because it's not like you're shoving it down their throat, that they're eager to learn about it. And also it gives you this mysterious presence where people feel like they need to peel back the layers of your onion to try and harder to learn more about you and things. We have to work harder for more satisfying, so it actually becomes an enjoyable process for them to learn about you. And now when they discover cool things about you because they see that you're successful because you have a cool apartment or you drive a cool car, or they just notice that you're in shape or that you have a strong social presence, all of these things become that much more impactful now, right? They add to the mystery, they add to the story of who is this guy. Additionally, I've discovered that this is the simplest method for weeding out phony people who don't give a _ about me, because if I show interest in you and ask you questions about yourself and you just talk about you without ever coming back to me, then it's not really a two-way street. Alright, that's not much of a two-way street. Moving on, having the right body type is another important component of projecting a masculine, dominant presence. For that reason, I suggest you watch the video that follows. It discusses the first thing women notice about men and the specific exercises you should prioritize in the gym to develop the right kind of body. Click there to check that out, and if you're new to the channel, click down there to subscribe. I release 2 new videos every week, so you won't want to miss them.